Lecture 14. The Enigma of Consciousness, What Lies Behind the Veil of Your Awareness. What mysterious force animates the electrical impulses of your brain into the rich tapestry of subjective experience you're experiencing at this very moment? As you listen to my words, feel the sensations in your body, and witness the images before you. What exactly is happening in that enigmatic space between physical processes and conscious experience? Welcome to Lecture 14, where we embark on an exploration of perhaps the most baffling phenomenon in the known universe, consciousness itself. I am your guide through this labyrinth of mystery, where science meets philosophy at the precipice of the unknown. Consciousness, that ethereal presence that feels so intimately familiar, yet remains so profoundly elusive. The word itself evokes something we all experience, yet cannot directly observe in others. It's the difference between a brain that merely processes information and a mind that experiences the world. The philosopher Thomas Nagel famously asked what it is like to be a bat, suggesting that consciousness fundamentally involves having subjective experiences, an inner life that feels like something. Yet this seemingly simple insight unleashes a cascade of perplexing questions that have bewildered the greatest minds throughout human history. As we venture into this mysterious terrain, prepare to question your most basic assumptions about reality, for in exploring consciousness, we are using consciousness to examine itself, a paradoxical endeavor that may forever keep certain truths just beyond our grasp. To approach the unfathomable, we must first attempt to define it. Yet herein lies our first encounter with the enigmatic nature of consciousness. It defies precise definition. The philosopher David Chalmers distinguished between the easy problems of consciousness, explaining cognitive functions like attention or memory, and the hard problem, why and how physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experience. Consider the color red. Science can explain wavelengths of light, retinal processing, and neural activity, but none of that explains why red looks the way it does to you, or why it looks like anything at all. This gap between physical description and subjective experience haunts every attempt to define consciousness in purely material terms. Throughout history, consciousness has been variously described as the soul, as an emergent property of complex systems, as fundamental to reality itself, or as an illusion created by neural processes. Each definition illuminates certain aspects while casting shadows elsewhere. The ancient Greeks saw consciousness as the psyche, a vital force animating the body. Descartes placed it outside the physical world entirely with his famous division between mind and matter. William James described consciousness as a stream of experience, ever-flowing and impossible to freeze for analysis. Modern neuroscience offers operational definitions: consciousness as global information integration, as higher-order representation, as a biological function. Yet each approach seems to circle around an ineffable center that remains just out of reach. Perhaps most telling is what philosopher John Searle called the first-person ontology of consciousness. Its existence is inherently subjective, accessible directly only to the one experiencing it. This creates a fundamental asymmetry in our knowledge. Your consciousness is directly known only to you, while to everyone else, it remains an inference, a mystery veiled behind behavior. As we venture deeper into this labyrinth, we encounter various theoretical paths that promise to lead us toward understanding. Each theory illuminates a different facet of the enigma, yet none has fully captured its essence. The global workspace theory, proposed by Bernard Bars, envisions consciousness as a kind of theater, where only certain perceptions and thoughts gain access to the stage of awareness, broadcast widely to specialized unconscious processors throughout the brain. This theory explains how some information enters our conscious awareness, while other processes remain in the shadows of the unconscious. Integrated information theory, developed by Giulio Tononi, takes a more mathematical approach, proposing that consciousness emerges from complex systems that integrate information in certain ways, creating a unified experience from disparate elements. According to this theory, consciousness isn't something separate from physical reality, but a fundamental property of certain information processing structures. Higher-order theories suggest that consciousness emerges when the brain represents its own representations, when you not only see the world, but are aware that you are seeing. This creates the recursive quality of conscious experience, the sense of being a self having experiences. More controversial are quantum theories of consciousness, which propose that quantum mechanical phenomena in brain microstructures might explain the mysterious properties of consciousness. Sir Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff's orchestrated objective reduction theory suggests quantum computations in neural microtubules could bridge the gap between the physical brain and subjective experience. Meanwhile, biological theories focus on identifying the neural correlates of consciousness, specific brain regions or patterns of activity that correspond to conscious states. Yet even as we map these correlates with increasing precision, the explanatory gap remains. How and why do these particular neural activities give rise to subjective experience? How do we measure something that cannot be directly observed from the outside? This measurement problem lies at the heart of consciousness research, forcing scientists to develop increasingly sophisticated methods to glimpse the invisible. Currently, we rely on both behavioral measures, what people report about their experiences, and physiological measures like EEG, fMRI, and other brain imaging technologies. These methods allow us to correlate certain brain states with reported conscious experiences, creating a kind of translation dictionary between first-person reports and third-person observations. Yet each method has profound limitations. Self-reports depend on memory, language, and honesty, while brain imaging shows us only the physical correlates, never the experience itself. It's as though we're studying shadows cast by an object we cannot directly see. The concept of qualia, the qualitative aspects of our experiences, like the redness of red or the painfulness of pain, further complicates the measurement problem. These intrinsic qualities seem to resist objective quantification. No matter how precisely we measure the brain activity associated with seeing red, we never capture the subjective quality of redness. This has led some philosophers to propose thought experiments like the philosophical zombie, a hypothetical being physically identical to a conscious human, but lacking any subjective experience. If such a being is even conceptually possible, it suggests that physical descriptions alone cannot fully account for consciousness. Others propose that consciousness itself is a fundamental aspect of reality, perhaps akin to physical properties like mass or charge, which would explain why it cannot be reduced to something more basic. This view, known as panpsychism, has experienced a surprising revival in contemporary philosophy of mind. The study of altered states of consciousness provides another window into this enigma. When the familiar patterns of our awareness shift dramatically, we may glimpse aspects of consciousness normally hidden from view. Consider dreaming, a state where consciousness persists without sensory input, creating entire worlds from internal processes. What does this reveal about the nature of conscious experience? Or meditation, where practitioners report states of pure awareness, divorced from specific content. Do these states reveal the ground of consciousness itself? Psychedelic experiences induced by substances like psilocybin or DMT can radically transform consciousness, dissolving boundaries between self and world or revealing geometric patterns said to pervade all existence. Brain imaging during these states shows disruption of normal filtering mechanisms, suggesting that ordinary consciousness may be a constrained version of a more expansive potential. Near-death experiences represent another frontier, with reports of consciousness persisting when brain activity is severely compromised. While these experiences can be partially explained by neurological mechanisms, they raise profound questions about the relationship between brain function and conscious experience. What all these altered states share is their ability to defamiliarize consciousness, allowing us to see aspects normally taken for granted. They suggest that our ordinary waking consciousness may be just one configuration among many possibilities, a single room in a vast mansion, most of which remains unexplored. Each altered state offers both insights and challenges to our theories of consciousness, reminding us of the vast territory that remains unmapped in our understanding of awareness itself. As we peer into the future of consciousness studies, new horizons emerge that may transform our understanding in unexpected ways. Advances in brain imaging and intervention technologies promise unprecedented access to the neural basis of consciousness. Techniques like optogenetics allow researchers to activate specific neural circuits with light, potentially isolating the minimal neural conditions for conscious states. Artificial intelligence raises profound questions about whether synthetic consciousness is possible and how we would recognize it if it emerged. Could a sufficiently complex artificial system ever have subjective experiences? What would that tell us about the nature of our own consciousness? These questions are not merely theoretical, they have profound ethical implications. If consciousness is what gives beings moral status, then our expanding understanding may force us to reconsider our ethical boundaries and responsibilities. We've journeyed through the labyrinth of consciousness, encountering its many mysteries. The hard problem, the measurement challenge, the insights from altered states, and the horizons of future research. Yet for all our sophisticated theories and advanced technologies, consciousness remains fundamentally enigmatic. Perhaps this is fitting. Perhaps there is something about consciousness that will always elude our full comprehension, not because of temporary limitations in our knowledge, but because of the inherent nature of what we're trying to understand. As you leave this lecture, I invite you to turn your attention to your own consciousness, not as an object of theoretical study, but as the living reality of your moment-to-moment experience. What is it like to be you, right now? In that simple question lies a universe of mystery that no lecture could ever fully capture. After all, the most profound truth about consciousness may be this: it is not merely something to be explained, but the very medium through which all explanation becomes possible. We are not just observers of the enigma, we are the enigma observing itself. For further exploration, I recommend these readings that span the scientific, philosophical, and experiential dimensions of consciousness studies. Each offers another thread to follow into the labyrinth. Thank you for your attention, or perhaps I should say, thank you for your consciousness.